Welcome to the Passive Wealth Principles podcast, the solo edition, and this is what I'm calling the What I Learned episode. And we're actually the first starting out process of this rebrand. If you're watching the video, you actually see my Catching Knives shirt. My book, Catching Knives, is still relevant, and we're still, doing some work underneath that banner, but we've actually rebranded the podcast in itself under the Passive Wealth Principles podcast, because really, as we're unpacking this and as we've been getting into some of these episodes, the information that was being brought out there was not about necessarily catching knives, but we wanted to add some more clarity to what we were talking about, and so that we could reach a wider audience. I'm really excited about the episode with Matt Aitchison, or Matty, because not only is he a business partner of mine, he's a friend. I've known him for a lot of years, but he's been someone as although he's younger, a bit of a mentor in some aspects of my life. And so I'm excited to talk more about some of the things and how he's teaching me. Again, it is not about age. I think a lot of people are oftentimes, misnomer to think that somebody has to be older to learn from them. But the reality is that I think everyone has a unique genius to themselves and skills in which they are amazing at. And Matt is amazing in a lot of things, and in many of those areas I am weak or just ignorant to. So I wanted to talk about in this episode of what I learned. Matt dives into, kind of the mindset of being scared as an investor, and some of the things that he just kind of goes through. And actually, I'm going to pull up a quote here. It was that he says in the episode, but it's like, just be dumb enough to believe in yourself, but smart enough to take action every single day. By just putting one foot in front of the other, the momentum of creating action is what leads to the ultimate results. And so there's times that he was scared as an investor. He talks about the losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in one investment deal, but subsequently how that became a huge benefit and a foundational moment in his investing career. We dive into also some personal things about him getting arrested, getting kicked out of school, expelled, and some of the pain that had to, from a lifestyle, from a missing out on what was going to be theoretically a amazing senior year, and going off and play sports in college, and then to not having that at all. That became, a foundational experience. And oftentimes, like my own life, is some of these failures are the things that then shape us. And that's what is exciting about this episode, and how I've been able to learn from Matt is, to optimize that lean in or lay down. Are you going to lay down, or are you going to fight or flight? Is just, are you going to quit, or are you going to keep doing this? And obviously, there's such a critical and key component to that, of just leaning in to so many things. We also kind of talk about, how in the early 2020 pandemic, was just kind of emerging, and it was kind of the first time in which, besides that one deal, but like many deals were unknown. And I think some of his experiences early in that pandemic also are going to be informational for people that are trying to navigate a rising interest rate environment, deal flow being a lot different. And, it's those. And so for me, it's also a good lesson to see what it is that Matt has done, his perspective, because he has developed so many systems in his life. You're probably going to hear this in this episode and many future episodes that we talk about, but is defaulting to the level of your systems, or as Matt calls them, routines. And so those routines, and so maybe it's described as a morning routine or a night routine or just a rhythm of your life. And really, the one of the biggest things that I've learned from Matt in the past few years, and I kind of helped lead him to this question in the podcast, but his relationship recharge. And it's 3 questions that he does every single Sunday with his wife and his kids. And it's 3 questions. What did I do well this week? What could I have done better? And what do you have coming up this week that I can support you in? Or for his kids, what are you excited about that I can help you in this week? So it's like those 3 questions, that seems so simple. Asking 3 questions once a week. What did I do well this week? What could I have done better? And what can I support you in coming up in this coming week? Very simple, but it's those little nuggets of systems that create some momentum and create some wins. And instead of trying to assume what your partner needs or what your kids want from you, you get to hear it from them directly. And I think that's also important in business. In business, you're checking up on things, you're creating KPIs, but how can you layer into those things that are really important? And then one of the other things we kind of talk about is being around the right people, leveraging the knowledge of the collective. And that's how I think we connected most, was in the Go Abundance Mastermind program. Matty was there I think he was member 13. And so, he was just fresh, new. It wasn't even like a thing. It was just some guys hanging out. Like, they didn't even have a requirement. It's obviously grown a tremendous amount. And as you're, listening to this episode, that may be how you have, or I have connected, is through that mastermind network, or you're interested in it. So I highly recommend someone that is looking to level up their peer group, and how that can collectively just move the needle in your life, because you truly are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And then just by that proximity, you will become the 6th of whatever it is, good and bad. And obviously that's something that Matt illustrates in his story, and some of the things that he was hanging around the wrong people and doing the wrong things and became the 6th on the negative. And then subsequently later in his life, by getting part of masterminds around other people, he was able to level up significantly his life, and at least to the traditional definitions of success. And diving into even details of success is a ambiguous term, meaning the fact that success to one person is totally different to someone else. If you're in a peer group and everyone's billionaires and you're only a millionaire, maybe success is being a billionaire. But by someone else's measure of, just struggling to, pay their bills every month, you're a tremendous success. So that capabilities of adapting the lens in which you're focusing and using that both for pro and con. You don't need to always be stuck in looking at everyone that's ahead of you, other than when you're trying to grow and adapt, and don't use that as a negative, but also remember where you come from. So those are some key things in this What I Learned episode. Obviously, this is a highlight and a concentration or synthetic, version of what the full episode is. And Matt has tremendous amounts of information that he shares and goes into a lot of detail. I'm excited for people to hear his story. I'm excited to continue to build that friendship and relationship with him. And I encourage people to go check out that episode of Passive Wealth Principles podcast. It's lots of P's, Passive Wealth Principles podcast all at once. Check out Matt Aitchison, and this is what I learned.